see what else I'm going to pull out of the pantry. I'm going to make a dessert. So let me see if I can move some stuff out of the way. I've got coconut. And because hubby's home from work, I'm going to do some of my onion bread mix. And that is going to be a pantry meal for our supper tonight. So we're going to have a Keto Crustless Coconut Pie with some Yankee Bean Soup. And some homemade onion rolls. Well, hey y'all, and welcome to the Hillbilly Chicken Ranch. I'm Susan, your hostess. Today we're doing a pantry meal, a keto dessert, and a bread mix from a jar that I had already on my pantry shelf. So I pulled all the items. So we're going to start with the crustless coconut keto custard pie. And I'm trying to use some of this allulose liquid sugar, so I've actually cut back a little bit on my liquids because this is liquid as well. The recipe that I'm using came from low-carb.yum.com. I'll leave a link to that in the description box below. However, I'm not following the entire recipe. I am changing things up to make it my own. This recipe calls for 2 large eggs, or you can use 3 for a stiffer custard. 1/2 cup milk, 3/4 cups of sugar substitute, and because I'm using a liquid, I've cut it back to 1/2 cup. I don't want too much liquid in there and then it not sit. It calls for a 1/4 cup of coconut flour, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. I'm using the Lavencedora extract that was given to me by Lazy Days Ahead with Jess and Lisa. It calls for 3/4 teaspoon of baking powder. I've also added a pinch of salt because the allulose has a little bit of a bitter aftertaste. So hopefully that will take care of that. 1 cup of shredded coconut, and I packed it down. 1/2 cup or 1 stick of butter. So I have some Amish butter that was canned and it's already softened, so I don't have to worry about that. It calls for coconut milk. I don't have coconut milk, so I'm opting for 1/2 cup of regular whole milk. And I'm going to get my eggs cracked, get them into the empty bowl here, and get them ready for the mixer. So I've cracked 3 of our farm fresh eggs. And instead of a pie pan, I'm going to actually use a shallow cake pan that I have pre-greased and make it that way. So it'll be more like a quiche type of custard pie or deep dish. Preheating my oven to 300 degrees Fahrenheit. This will cook in the oven for 1 hour. The recipe says to take your coconut, and you're going to do this separate, and you're going to add your milk to your coconut and let it absorb that milk. I'm going to set this aside and we'll come back to that. I'm going to move my mixer out so that you can see what I'm doing. And into my mixer, I'm going to add my eggs, my vanilla, my butter. Let me grab a spatula. And I'm going to go ahead and start incorporating those together. Then we're going to add in our allulose sugar. We'll add in our coconut mixture with the baking powder and our little bit of salt. It's going to get loud. The allulose sugar. Our coconut. Baking powder and salt. And our coconut flour. I'm going to get the beaters off here, and then we're going to get this into the pan and get it into the oven. Now, if you feel like this is not thick enough with the liquid sugar, you can always add more of the coconut flour to make up the difference. And you can certainly use the dry. The recipe actually calls for the dry. And I'm just going to make sure that that is spread evenly in my cake pan. We're going to put this in the oven for 1 hour. I have a manual timer going for my oven. My oven timer has stopped working. I have pulled out my bread mix. I'm going to add 1/2 cup plus 1 tablespoon of water and 1/2 tablespoon of oil. I'm actually going to have to get my butter and see if I got any melted enough to put in there. It'll take me just a moment to melt some of that butter. Dump that into our mixing bowl here. Oh, it smells so good coming out of that. I'm going to go ahead and add in my 1/2 cup of warm water. You want it about 100 to 110 degrees. Plus 1 tablespoon of water. Let me grab a spatula. And I need a 1/2 tablespoon of oil. So I'm just going to use my tablespoon and dip down in here and get about half of that filled with that butter. We're going to mix this. Now you may have to add a little more water to this if it seems too dry to you. That is perfectly normal. And it all depends upon how humid it is outside as to how well your bread will come together. So I may have to add a little more water to this, but we're going to get in here with my hands first and see what we've got. And I actually prefer a little more moisture in my dough. I'd rather it be on the sticky side than not enough water added. So let's add a little more water, about a tablespoon at a time. Go ahead and pull some water off my tap. And we're going to continue to work this dough. What we're hoping is that we can incorporate all of the dough into a ball. It's getting there. So another tablespoon. And I'm just going to lift this dough up. We're going to add another tablespoon to all that on the bottom. And hopefully that'll be enough to grab everything in here. Now, if I remember correctly, I used some dehydrated scallions in this, along with some dehydrated onion flakes, and probably parsley, knowing me. So I've got a stiff dough. And we've pretty much made a ball with this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover this with a wet tea towel. And I like using my older towels for this. So I'm going to get the water hot. And I am doubling this because this is a small bowl. And my oven is on, so I'm going to set my bowl over here on my oven and allow it to rise. I'm going to allow it to rise, then I'll make it into balls, and then I'll let it rise a second rise before I bake them. Okay, I have just greased a muffin tin and started rolling out some balls. So I'm taking this, I'm actually quartering it and then cutting it into each section into thirds. And the idea is to get them formed into balls, and then I'm going to put them into a warm oven and allow them to rise. To cover my rolls with a warm wet towel, and it's going directly into my oven. Once they have risen, then I will be able to bake them. And I baked them, I believe it was 350 degrees. I'll have to look and make sure, for about 20 minutes. And my pie is ready to be served. All I have to do is cut it and put it out on a plate, and it'll be delicious for a low-carb dessert. These did not rise like they normally would because I messed up. Instead of making 6, I made 12. But they're going to be perfect anyway. I'm going to go ahead and get a little butter on them. Little parsley on the top. I've got dinner rolls on the side of my plate and a nice piece of Keto Crustless Coconut Pie. That's for what's for supper tonight at our house. What's for supper at your house? Thank you, my friends, for watching, and may you be fully blessed.